I grew up in a really small town in Tennessee, kind of literally in the middle of nowhere. The original name of the town that I'm from is Defeated, Tennessee. That's not really a lie, unfortunately. Very family oriented, very religiously, driven. And so that kind of sets a basis for where my work would come from later in life. Not knowing it, obviously, at the time, and then kind of looking back on it through the years and seeing it develop in a timeline sense.
Samantha's work is like a diary in that she is, using words to expose herself, but it's also the words we're not seeing. It's very intimate. It's very personal. She's exposing herself, but she's not letting us in at the same time.
My spotlight project is culminating from 3 pieces that I had sketched out in my sketchbook for, I'd say it's been at least 6 to 7 months ago. Just kind of going with new ideas about text-based work and what I could make and what would work best together. And it culminated in this body of work that I titled Secrets, which deals with the disconnect that I have from my family, being that they're, back in Tennessee where I was originally born and raised. And we talk on the phone maybe once a week with my mother, but we don't ever talk about anything other than like the weather or whatever's on the news or what did I have for dinner or something like that. It's really surface level things. And the more I realize as I get older, the more I know that I know nothing about her and she knows nothing about me.
This is maybe a body of work that she's been thinking about for a while and for a variety of reasons hasn't really manifested yet. But she said that this was, these were ideas that she had in her sketchbook for a while and that she was, really grateful to have an opportunity and some resources to do the project. And I also think that, she's ready to say the things that, she's preparing herself to say.
For me, the easiest way to describe it would be I'm taking components of journal entries and converting them into visual experiences. And so each piece, there are 3 pieces in Secrets. Each piece has text incorporated into it somehow. And they're based on this idea about exploring the identity of who I am versus who I was when I lived at home with my parents, and who they think I am or present myself, and also in that case, who I present myself when I go back home to visit. And so they're like 2 totally different identities. And so these are kind of letters or entries, journal entries to myself, talking about this experience of the disconnect between myself and the family. One of the pieces is taking metal coat hangers and severing them at the end. And I pre-drill holes into the wall and then just insert them. And that spells out the word hush along the wall. And then the second piece is taking 12-inch by 12-inch mirror tiles and I'm mounting them on the wall. And each tile will have a letter that'll spell out the phrase, "You have always known." And then the third piece to kind of bring it all together is an old cassette tape. The cassette tape actually is the most important for me because I remember growing up at home, I would record myself just talking to myself on the cassette tape. And so it's kind of like I've recorded, all of these confessions on tape over time. And then with this last piece of the project, I'm unrolling all of the magnetic tape from inside the cassette and then using that to mount along the wall, and it'll spell out the phrase, "All the lies I've ever told." And so they just kind of all relate to one another in terms of being very personal and having that kind of personal message. And I think one of the more interesting things about it is when people experience it, they will, though text is a very immediate language, it's a very immediate thing, you instantly think that you get the message. But the thing about text when it's paired with visual elements is I feel like anybody could have a completely separate interpretation than what I would bring to it.
We hope to challenge Samantha's ideas. When we saw her proposal, we We're excited to see the different textures she's using, the different materials, cassette tapes, mirrors, lipstick, coat hangers. But we challenged her to think about, where she was putting them on the wall, where she's placing them, and eventually we hope that she can activate the space a little bit more.
I've actually never worked with curators before, and so, I think that's very important, obviously, in an artist's career, is to be able to have that experience, the give and take of the relationship between the curator and the artist, and which is considerably different from, instructor to student, which is what my previous experience was just being out of grad school. And so now I feel like it's more at a professional level where I am able to make up the decisions without having to feel confined necessarily. There's a lot more freedom, I think, to work there, and to have the guidance of a curator, I think is just a really beneficial thing to have.